Hey again, and welcome to another vlog as my Xbox fires up behind me. Uh, anyway, this is a vlog I wanted to do yesterday and the day before, and for whatever reason, I just kept putting it off. So it's still on my mind, so I may as well just smack a video out for it. What I want to talk about is early access gaming and my experiences with it, especially in the last year or so. The pros and cons, the negatives and positives, and for me, it's been mostly negatives and cons. But I'll explain that here in a second. I wanted to mention how before the gaming, like the early access gaming experiences that I had this year, I always thought of early access gaming as being the concept of like being able to play the beta of something. In particular, something like World of Warcraft. I actually had the opportunity to take part in the beta for Mists of Pandaria. And I was waiting for my key or whatever to get in on it. And I don't recall if I even ever got it. But I made a conscious decision after a little while, after mulling it over for some time, that I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to ruin what I felt like would be the experience of the expansion when it came out, when it was brand new and it was ready to go. Because you see, beta testing for a game like that means that you get to come in to the zones and the quests and the the new options and new things that'll be introduced with that expansion, and you get to take part in that early than the average gamer who's just going to buy the expansion on release day and play it then. And you don't just get to play. It's not like you get the entire thing open wide just for you to experience before everybody else. You get to play certain parts of it. The parts that are ready to go. You get to play the quests that are functional in some shape. But mainly you're bug testing. You're going to do a mission or quest. You're going to do a storyline event. You're going to do whatever, and then you're going to report back your findings, especially if you have any issues. And you're going to submit that to Blizzard and say, here's what happened, and here's something that I think needs to be dealt with. And then a few months later, you're going to play the actual game, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember part of this. Oh, here's something they added. Here's something that they took away. I don't know. To me, I felt like that was going to kind of spoil it. I wanted to be there on day one with everybody else experiencing it for the first time, not in early with a smaller group of people and accessing. Like I watched WoW Krendor play parts of the parts of the beta for Warlords of Draenor, and he was going into areas that literally he'd walk up to an NPC and in the text box it would say NPC. It would say random this, or he'd go into an area that was like untitled or something like that. And I'm all about the immersion. I'm all about the story and experiencing what the game has to offer in its whole, being. And I don't want to play it early like that and kind of lose some of that. I don't even know what words I'm really trying to search for. I just feel like it loses something when you play it early in an unfinished state on something like World of Warcraft. But that's not really the same as what early access gaming means nowadays. And my experiences with early access gaming this last year came mainly through two games. One was Nether, and the second was Rust. Now, I had two very different experiences with those games. I'll start with Nether, because Nether I actually picked up about a week, I think, before I picked up Rust. Nether seemed like a really cool concept. It seemed like a game that was, I don't know, just from watching people playing it, I thought, this looks like it's full of action, it could be a whole lot of fun, and in the end, my experience with it was it, well, I should have prefaced this all with the statement about early access games now mean it's not a big studio like Blizzard or EA or Ubisoft or Square or any of those companies allowing you access to something in a beta format, especially online games like WoW. Early access games now are usually little independent companies, little small groups of people who want to put out a game, and they'll use something like Kickstarter or GoFundMe or one of these crowds funding organizations where people will see a little bit of what you've worked on. They'll read a little bit into the project, and they'll be like, you know what, I'm gonna throw my money to you now to help you develop this game. And one of the main perks that you get is early access to play the game in the state that it is now, and every time it gets updated and redone or whatever. The concept is still around now. It's still pretty big. Games like The Forest still gets enough updates that I see people playing it. But the first games this year, and they actually came out late last year, but I didn't get into them until this year. The first games that I messed around with in that were, like I said, Nether and Rust. So, anyway, now that I've explained that, hopefully if you didn't know what this concept meant, now you got a little bit more of a picture. And anyway, Nether was a game where you're in sort of like I don't know, it seems like maybe an apocalyptic thing. Rundown cities, decrepit buildings, cars that are just, dead in the road and all this and that. And then there are these creatures, like alien type creatures or whatever. And you spawn into a world and you basically have nothing. But then you go and scavenge for gear, for weapons, for health items, and try to survive and hopefully get weapons that'll let you kill the creatures so that you don't get killed and have to start over. It's a game with a permadeath structure to it. Your character, no matter what gear you have, no matter how much you've leveled up your character, when you die, you respawn as a brand new character right back at the beginning. The best that you can hope to do is to go find your body and loot your gear back to you. But see, it's a game, it's an online game with other people in it. So they can come find your body too and steal your stuff. Hell, they could have been the ones that shot and killed you. It doesn't always necessarily have to be one of the creatures that you go up against. And I found that to be really tough. As much as I liked the game, I thought it had a nice visual aesthetic to it. I thought, well, this is really, really cool, and it's early, so maybe they're going to have an even bigger world map, and who knows what else you might be able to do in it. So I was really stoked about it. But once I played it, like I said, I found it to be unforgiving. And people are trolls, people will just kill you for no reason. Just because you're a new spawn doesn't mean that someone's going to take it easy on you. And it lost its luster. There was no crafting, no real crafting thing to it. Maybe some item crafting, I don't remember, but you couldn't build a base. You couldn't go into a building and say, okay, this is my base, this is my home or whatever. You just run around in these things and do a few missions and fight off other players and creatures. And it seemed ultimately kind of pointless. And I don't play it very often, occasionally. I don't remember the last time I went into it. I guess I could find out since I'm sitting here, just for the sake of the discussion. The last time I played Nether was on July 2nd. So yeah, it's been a little while. Now the other game that I played was Rust, and I've done a video about Rust on my favorite videos thing. And I had a different perspective on it then, now than what I did then. Two reasons mainly. The group of people I was playing with all kind of disbanded from the game, and the game had gotten kind of boring. And for me, I was playing on the server that we all played on because it was done by the YouTuber named Ohmwrecker, and Ohm and Minx and DLive and Wade and a bunch of other people had been playing on it, and it was more appealing when I thought I was going to be playing, on the server when they were on the server, maybe taking parts in their streams. So when that settled down and when my online friends who were playing the game started to do other things, I got bored of it. Then I went back. I think in August I went to play the game, and I noticed that in addition to regular Rust like we had been playing, they now had an experimental Rust. But it was kind of notated as being a new stripped down and like a restart of the build of the game, but it was going to be the eventual full version of Rust. And I didn't like it. It felt weird, it looked weird, it played strange. I can't necessarily say it doesn't play the same. Some of the mechanics seem to be similar, but in other ways it's very different. It just did not feel comfortable. And then I went to play it again Saturday, and now it's click to go to Rust or play Legacy Rust, which was the Rust that we all got to know in the beginning. And the new Rust that's going to be the official Rust eventually still looks weird. It's still not very finished. It's still being put together. And Legacy Rust, which is what I've come to know as Rust, is just, it's there and lots of people are still playing it, but I don't know if they're going to leave Legacy Rust intact when the game is finished. If they don't, that's what kills it for me on early access gaming. You play a game, and even if the game's not finished, even if the game lacks a lot of polish, lacks a lot of functionality, once you play it for so long, it's very nostalgic, I guess, is part of it. But you just start to accept this is the game that I'm playing. If I went to go play Gmod one day and it was completely different, everything looked different, controls were different and whatnot, it wouldn't be Gmod anymore. The same thing would happen with, say, Half-Life, Final Fantasy VII, Shadow of the Colossus, any of my favorite games. If all of a sudden it was different after all the time I'd spent with it as it was, I know that those are final games. Those are completed games, and I'm talking about an early access game. But I'm very put off by early access gaming stuff now because I got used to what Rust says, or what Rust was, and now it's going to be different when it's completed. It's not going to be the same. I've gotten my $20 worth out of it. I have no qualms with that. But the experience that I paid for may be gone, and that just, I don't know, it's just disappointing to me. That's really the whole point of why I wanted to sit down and talk about this. I'm just disappointed because I think that with Rust, when the game is finished and it's all done, unless Legacy Rust is available to play, it won't ever be the same experience that I initially fell in love with. So if that makes any sense, great. At early access gaming, I'm not so sure that that's something I'm going to ever do again. I think I will just wait for a game to be finished, even if I'm missing out on some fun times, even if I'm missing out on the crazy the strange things that happen in these games when their physics aren't finalized, when the certain aspects of the game aren't put together well, and there can be some craziness. It's great for the YouTubers to make funny videos for, but for me, I think I want a complete game. I don't ever want to throw my money at something when it's early just because I'll get early access, because by the time it's all said and done, it probably won't be the same thing. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Just a little kind of mini rant about early access gaming and my thoughts on it. It's just not for me anymore. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.